I mean, 10 years ago when we started talking about all these things that had to do with vaccines, there was barely a voice. There was hardly anybody listening. And now what they're doing is more and more people are getting involved. People are asking questions. People are saying no. People are challenging their doctors. They're finding out that they don't need a pediatrician if they have healthy children. They can find other types of healthcare practitioners to help them stay well and stay out of the vaccination lines.
And I had said in January they're going to stage some flu hype because I saw the federal government and FEMA getting ready with local police departments saying get ready for mass graves, a big pandemic's coming. The flu makers were quietly gearing up. They knew this was coming. A lot of scientists say it's clearly been designed. Then we saw the hype in the aftermath, the attempt to make it mandatory in New York and Massachusetts. I mean, I know you're a scientist, a doctor, a researcher, a journalist. You go off what you can prove. But in your gut, is this whole thing staged?
I think that there is some staging to it. And what I'm really concerned about is the next wave that's going to come along. I think that these people, they pushed way too hard to get everybody vaccinated for what was known to be a mild virus. It wasn't any different than any other influenza virus that we've seen before. I'm really concerned about the accidents that are happening in schools. These kids are getting 2 and 3 and 4 flu shots, that they get the regular flu shot and the swine flu shot. I'm super concerned about the flu mist vaccination.
And notice the accidents are all with elementary students where they think the children won't be able to explain the story. And we caught schools denying they'd done it, and then later it would come out they had. So they're also lying. I mean, this is really creepy and criminal.
It very is much creepy and criminal. And it's like parents should have some recourse to that. Now, I don't think that the parents can actually sue the school system because they have to prove that something had harmed them. But I think they can go after the school boards. They can vote them out. They can show up at the school boards every single session that they have and force them to give them an answer. They can say, where is our money going? How much money are you getting, school board, for doing these inoculations in these school systems? And I think that parents need to be really, really proactive because this is just the first step. If they're doing this with flu shots, what's going to be the next thing? Are they going to inoculate kids at school with Gardasil? But that I have personally a bigger concern about Tamiflu, and that I think that Tamiflu, and even in the scientific literature, it talks about 16% of the viruses each year become resistant to Tamiflu. So if we start creating very resistant mutant viruses, and those mutant viruses get out into the environment and they're resistant, and they start to do this thing called reassortment and come together and create an even bigger vaccine, a bigger virus that is going to be even more of a problem, and they sort of agreed with that. One of the questions that got asked to me was, is there any evidence in the medical literature that vaccines have caused harm and problems? And I was really glad that came to me because, I spend most of my life researching the problems with vaccines, and I know that I've personally done more than 350 articles that have pulled looking at all the different problems with all of the different vaccines, particularly hepatitis B, the things with the flu shot, things with all the different vaccines that can cause problems. And they can cause problems by about 5 or 6 different mechanisms of action.
What's your view on the vitamin K?
I think that there are a lot of reasons to put that off. The vitamin K shot was actually put into play in the hospital ostensibly because of blood disorders and because of the very, very remote risk of bleeding that can happen in the brain if you don't have vitamin K on board. But vitamin K starts to be developed in the neonatal liver at about 7 days. And the vitamin K shot was also instituted because of circumcision. The circumcision was always done at 7 to 8 days. It was, a Jewish tradition, and that they did it at 7 days. When they started doing the circumcision in the hospital on day 2 and 3, the baby hadn't already been producing enough vitamin K in their liver so that there would be bleeding. So
isn't it amazing that the rabbis knew thousands of years ago to do it on 7 days when they had blood clotting?
Exactly.
How did they know that?
I don't know how they knew that, but they did. I don't know. It was just a tradition. I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, how do we know from years ago? I don't know how to answer that.
That's amazing. Let's get into Ukraine and also the adverse reaction reports. This Washington Redskins cheerleader, she went to Johns Hopkins, other facilities. They said, yes, you've gotten this neurological disorder. The FDA said, yes, this can happen. And then she went and got some treatments and is getting better. I know Dale Dudley, 93.7 talk show host, he took a flu shot and months later got numb in his hands and feet, started getting paralyzed, started having trouble walking. He went to a bunch of specialists and medical doctors said, you had a bad vaccine reaction. He got better. Now they're trying to say it's a hoax because she got better, but the FDA itself says, don't worry, if you do have a neurological problem, most of the time it gets better. But they're trying to have it both ways, saying, well, because Desiree is getting better, it must be fake. But then there's all these other reports where they're admitting it's causing neurological problems.
Yeah, it's always amazing, isn't it, that if you get sick and you haven't been vaccinated, it's because you weren't vaccinated. But if you had a vaccine and you have a bad reaction, it's never the vaccine. I mean, talk about having it both ways. And it's amazing that even though conventional medicine completely failed this woman and had nothing to offer her, and then she goes and finds a physician, who is actually Dr. Buttar is a friend of mine, and they went to his clinic and they find out that there's some things in an alternative medicine arena that can be done. And she starts to get better. Now it was a hoax. She was misdiagnosed. It couldn't possibly work because their particular tools didn't work means that there aren't any tools that work. That is very, very bad. What
is Dr. Buttar and others, because he helped Jenny McCarthy and many others, they're trying to, as Dr. Blaylock says, reduce the autoimmune inflammation. They're trying to chelate and remove the metals. What are these treatments?
I'm not exactly sure. I know that there's a lot of IV treatments that are involved, and I know it's a lot of what you said. I think there's a lot of IV vitamin C, probably glutathione, probably different types of things that pull the metals out of the body. But it's all about rebalancing the physiology and putting the right biochemistry in and interceding quickly so that you can stop those inflammatory molecules from causing damage.
And instead of them admitting vaccines are causing a lot of this and giving people treatments when they give their 18-month-old the third round of shots, they have a convulsion, never talk again, instead of rushing them in and saying, detox, detox, oh, no, it wasn't the shot, there's no treatment, you must have shaken your baby.
Yeah, and the other piece of that, they're always talking about how much the vaccine programs cost. There's a cost that has never really been analyzed, Alex, that I think is really important, and you've addressed it, is the fact that if you have a bad reaction and you go to the doctor's office, now what do? They put you through all of these tests, and I'll give you one quick example. For example, the hepatitis B vaccine that happens that they give babies in the hospital. One of the side effects right on the package insert is that babies can get reflux. They can get GERD. So now they start having GERD and maybe bad diarrhea. They take them to the pediatrician. What do? Upper GIs, lower GIs, endoscopy. They do CAT scans. They do all these different antibiotics, all these different things to this baby rather than going, oh, here it says right here on the package insert, this is a side effect, probably just a side effect of the vaccine. All of those costs, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of inconclusive tests, multiply that times thousands and thousands of patients. That is also a cost to the vaccine system, about vaccines.
Well, I've talked to old pediatricians that saw kids 50 years ago. They say babies are different today. Something's wrong with them. They got dull eyes. They're getting brain damage.
But it starts before babies. I'm just concerned that there's another virus that's come into play. Because when you look at those numbers, if you can believe them at all, and there was a couple of really good sites that I looked at the numbers and how exponentially that there was more and more people getting sick in a very short period of time. Was it something in the air? Was it something that was released? Was it one of these mutant viruses that we talked about in terms of Tamiflu? That now maybe the H1N1 and the H5N1 and maybe one of these mutant viruses has started to reassort, and that there is really something a lot more virulent that's going on.
They're coming with some type of big flu hype. I don't know if it's going to be real. It may just be hype, but they're really building up like we've never seen. And we never saw flu pandemics coming this quickly. Now they're coming in shorter and shorter increments, aren't they?
Alex, I have a document on my computer that was from 2003 that was released. It was a small little report that came out from the CIA that actually said that they were very concerned that there was going to be the development of a virus down the road that could be activated by a second virus, and that there would be no way. There was in a bioterrorism website, and they had no way of knowing, and there would be no way to be able to control that if there was a virus that had been released, and then a second virus would activate it, and it may be even activated by taking aspirin.
Well, that's incredible because they admit Tamiflu has all these bad reactions and is highly restricted in Japan. Mm-hmm. They're just giving it to everybody like it's candy. And just like antibiotics make bacteria mutate quicker, I guess in a layman's terms, that's what these antivirals do.
Absolutely. And the World Health Organization talks about this. I mean, every month they come out with reports that there is now an H1N1 a virus that has been identified in a particular country like South Vietnam or Thailand or China or places that it's resistant. They know that last year the H1N1 strain in the seasonal flu virus was 100% resistant to Tamiflu. Well, that had to have happened because we used a lot of Tamiflu previous to that. So it's going to happen. I mean, it has to happen that these viruses are going to mutate and morph around.